survival sucks. You want to live, ultimately. So now we have is a whole bunch of people focusing on fear, disaster, death, recession. How many times in the last 8 years was terror used on the news? Before that, you heard terror used maybe once or twice a year.
It doesn't take a terrorist attack. It doesn't take, some hurricane hitting for a family to need whatever they might have that's extra they've set aside. We had friends who were on long-term unemployment, and all of a sudden it was hitting closer and closer to home. And we began to think that it might be a good idea for us to take some steps just to safeguard against those kinds of setbacks.
Everything that we do on a need-based level every day that we've been too cowed into taking for granted for too many decades because we're spoiled Americans.
And there was a month not too long ago when our income was cut in half. The food storage is the most visible thing that we've done, and it's a very practical step, but just to get ourselves in a better situation where a lack of income wouldn't be completely devastating.
If you want to have a survival plan, based on eating your T-bone steak every night, you're largely screwed, because that's a short-term view of staying alive.
Okay. I just remember the very first grocery trip that we took. One of the stores here had a big sale, and he had a cart or two, and I had a cart or two, and we were just filling it up with just whatever bargains that we saw, things that we either thought would come in handy or things that we use every day. So for us, it is very strange. I go to the store, I stock up on things. I wonder what the grocery lady thinks when she sees, that I have 30, cans of soup, and I have, all these canned goods that I clearly, is going to last more than just a few days. I found myself defending our decisions, and I don't do that anymore.
Most of us are suburbanites or urbanites, and you need to look at what the human body needs. And the easiest way to find out what the human body needs is to go into your house and apartment and duct tape over the outlets or turn the breaker off for a weekend and find out what has you by the balls. You have no lights, you have no heating, you have no cooling, you have no refrigeration, you have nothing devoted to the grid power. And you'll find out very quickly what you found dear and took for granted. That changes.
The path, the preparedness path really is insurance. And my husband commented the other day that if our income did shut down, if there was an emergency where we had to rely on ourselves, we would have the food, we would have supplies, and that would free up the money that we did have for a house payment. And that would free up the money that we did have for an emergency medical bill or whatever.
Personal responsibility is the essence of self-reliance, and that's a dirty word to most Americans. I have to be responsible for, don't I have insurance for that?
There's definitely a survivalist stereotype.
Yeah, I do have a bandana on, but I'm not with my shirt off killing a pig in a Rambo movie, and that's what the media thinks, and I think that's a mistake.
I don't even like the term prepper. About a year ago, I started to feel like maybe I do need something, just to, for protection. Because if there was someone trying to break into our house, previously there was not a thing I could do except try to hide or maybe escape with the kids. And so we started looking at ways that, we taught our children, how to, shoot just a little .22 rifle.
That's the essence of truly being self-reliant. So I would issue a challenge and a caution to people out there and encourage them to prepare and to mitigate a potential disaster, but then you have to break off and live your life and not focus with that fearful mentality, thus creating the crisis.
Then they walk down, and when they see my husband and I both tend toward a little bit of paranoia. And we joke about it, but it's like, well, we're ready, we have our beans and we have our rice.
It's based on common sense. There's no anxiety, there's no fear, there's no paranoia. It's just knowing basic human physiology and psychology, knowing how the body works, what makes it tick, and wanting to be free and having the needs met for myself or my family or whatever to get by if push comes to shove.
I think it's a better lifestyle to be more self-sufficient. I think that there's,
when we do travel, it's nice to know.
I don't see anything particularly valuable about life spent in front of TVs with video games, for example. So if my children can learn practical skills, and if I can, teach them, things that are more satisfying, really truly fulfilling, then I think that's actually a better way of life.